an old friend with new takes. Mark SCHLERETH is back with us.
Good to see you guys. Always a pleasure to be with you. I went with the two-hand handshake. You see that? Yeah, that's a
it was practically a hug.
Yes, absolutely.
It was warm and endearing. Mark, we're still talking about the Cowboys who managed to pull off the surprise of the weekend. Beating the Jags 40-7, that was a surprise. Their offense ran smoothly. That was a surprise. And to top it all off, it was led by Dak Prescott, who used his legs to his advantage, a career-high 82 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown.
He just opened everything up. I mean, as I said, some of it was called runs and just read options, and the end gave us the read to keep it, and then a couple of them were just man-to-man protection or man-to-man coverage, and the protection was solid and able to get out of the pocket and make them pay. So at that point, I mean, they needed to get a spy guy or make some adjustments on their part and just opened up everything for our offense.
All right, Stink, the first couple games, we wanted to see Zeke run the ball more, and then they finally gave him more carries, and we were excited. Then we wanted to see what Dak could do if he was able to run the offense a little bit more his way. He ran for 82 yards, and we were happy. But how sustainable is that? How much of a threat can the Cowboys offense be if they hand the ball to Dak and ask him to run?
Well, I mean, again, I think the thing you have to understand about this, the integrity of balance. When you have balance, then you have a defense that has to defend multiple things. And when you have that, you can be successful. You take a lot of pressure off an offensive line. So I think that's a big issue with them right now. How sustainable is it? Well, how willing is Dak Prescott to take care of himself? How willing is he to slide down and not take a hit? Because and my opinion has probably changed on this over time. I think it can be sustainable if he had, I think, 11 carries. If, 5 or 6 of those are designed runs. But when you're running read option stuff, you're just reading the defensive end. And then you're getting around the edge without, you'll see everything in front of you. You're not getting blindsided. It's not like you're running quarterback counter between the tackles. So I think it's a sustainable thing for them. I think the biggest thing is it takes pressure off that offensive line when you're able to run play-action game like that. And I always think about it this way. I always wanted to know every quarterback's drop and how long that quarterback was going to hold the ball for on a particular pass route. So I knew anything that was a deep over, I knew that, that's a 7-step drop. That's going to take some time. All go is a 5-step drop. The ball's going to be out like that. So in a 5-step drop where I know the ball's out, man, I can attack the line of scrimmage. I can actually run block that. And even if I whiff, they're not getting to my quarterback because the ball is out so quickly. So when you have the integrity of balance, you have an opportunity to take an offensive line that's been marginalized to some degree because of injury and because of young players and make them really good, make them look like they can shine. And that's really what happens when you have that going on like they have in Dallas last week against Jacksonville.
The thing that NFL teams do adjust. Is it sustainable? To me, no. So I disagree with Mark. And the reason why is there's only 2 quarterbacks in the recent NFL era that have been able to do it and do it successfully. And the reason why is because they're freaks of nature. Recently, Cam Newton, when his MVP season, he's the only guy that's been able to do it. He's also the best running quarterback in the history of this game. Well, people say, well, what about Michael Vick? Michael Vick was able to do it and take his team to the promised land, say get to the Super Bowl. Colin Kaepernick, the other guy, only guy that could do it. Why? He's a freak, 6'5", 225, 230, and neither one of these guys, Cam a little more so than Cap, they don't get hit square an awful lot. So that has a lot to do with it. Deshaun Watson, we saw him last week's game. Man, he got banged around. He's talking about, oh, I can do this. No, you can't. There's only a couple people that have been able to do it, so that's the reason why, yes, you can win a game or two. Yeah, you might be able to win your division. Yeah, you might be able to get through the wild card round. But in the end of it, Cam Newton, what brought him down? The rush of the Denver Broncos and his inability to throw the ball down the field. Colin Kaepernick had one play to be able to win the Super Bowl, throw a fade pattern to Michael Crabtree. He couldn't be able to do that. So ultimately, at the end of it, the guys that win and win big in this league, they do it from the pocket. So if the Dallas Cowboys, as long as Dak is their quarterback, if they want to run him, you might win a couple games. But as a fan of the ultimate, the Super Bowl, you're not going to be able to win a Super Bowl. And why? Because the history of this league, it tells us that, and it's proved out to be in 2018, it's more important to have a passer than ever.
The score of this game is misleading to how the Cowboys offense actually worked. They scored 40 points. You would think, okay, in today's NFL, you score 40 points down the field passing. It's not what happened at all. The reason why I would temper my enthusiasm a bit if I were the Cowboys, despite Dak's performances, Dak's rushing threat didn't add to their passing attack. He's right at around his average for the year, which is sub 200 yards per game. If all is going to come back, we can ask this question a lot of different ways. It's going to come back to the same answer. Right now, the Cowboys, what is their problem on offense? They have a quarterback who at this moment is limited, throwing the football down the field, and they have the least explosive group of wide receivers in the NFL. I had San Francisco on that list. Well, not anymore. I saw Goodwin be a track star last night, and Pierre Garçon would be a clear number one on Dallas. We thought Allen Hurns might be able to get 1,000 yards. He would, 1,000 yards for the rest of his career in Dallas is what he's projecting to. Go ahead.
Dallas Cowboys have been playing football for a long time. This is the worst group of wide receivers they ever had in the history of the team. So their quarterback is going to have to run based on the lack of explosive players that they have.
So one of the things that you get into, though, is to create a passing game. You don't want him throwing more than 25, 27 balls. Again, you just don't. So one of the things about their play action with him running in that threat, there are so many things. Like play action to me is a way to suck up underneath coverage, and you're just throwing one receiver routes to a hole. Like that's how the whole X drift, how the Washington Redskins with RG3, 1,000 yards passing during the course of a season with RG3 when he was Rookie of the Year on X drift, and it's a one route throw, 1,000 yards. And that throw is 92% complete. You can't cover it. It's a two-man route, and you've got one guy as your primary. That's it. That's all you're looking at. And they were able to create that. And what you're doing here for Dak Prescott is you're saying, we're going to create, if you're throwing it 25 times, we're going to create at least 12 to 14, 15 automatic completions. You walk into the game, you'll be 12 for 12 doing this. And then it's just what you do on your dropbacks. If you can complete 50% of your dropbacks and we run the ball with this threat, we're going to win. And this is our style. Now, I'm 100% with Cece. Like, if you're just saying, hey, Dak, run around like Cam Newton does, eventually you're going to break ribs and you're going to get, you'll puncture lung and you won't play very long. And the difference between, like, Russell Wilson is great at this. Russell Wilson going into last week, and I haven't watched their game in London yet, but I had their game before. He had one carry, one rushing off a read zone on the whole season. He carried it one time.
One designed run.
One designed run. The others were just scrambles that he had to get out of the pocket. One designed run on the season going through 5 weeks.
And Dak is not as good an athlete as Russell Wilson.
No.
Not as fast.
Then let me just ask it differently. How much does the threat of him running help open up the offense?
Well, this is the thing. The NFL teams are going to change. The reason why it worked this weekend, Jacksonville played a lot of man-to-man. When you're playing man-to-man, when the receiver runs off the DB, his eyes go with the wide receiver. He's not looking at the quarterback. But let me tell you what you do with a 3-man to 4-man rush. You take 8 guys and all 8 sets of eyes and keep them on the quarterback. You drop 7 guys in the coverage. You rush 4, and you got 7 sets of eyes on the quarterback. That's why you're not able to do this over the course of a season, and that's why in the playoffs you're not able to advance. Because even if you play action, the linebackers, it's not as distinct of a fake, because the linebackers aren't playing the running backs man-to-man.
Because prior to this week, historically, Blake Bortles was a more effective runner than Dak Prescott. The quarterback in that game, going into that game, who had a better history of running the football successfully, was Blake. Dak's career-high rushing was 45 yards. So as much as the Cowboys talked about it, I would imagine Jacksonville, you talked about how you would have your team at least once a quarter, once every quarter of a season, once every 4 games, throw you a go route. Just so the other team had in their film study, they have to worry about it. There's no 4 or 14 game study prior to this past week where a team playing Dak's like, man, he might run the ball a dozen times.
Let's just go back to the beginning of the season. everything with the expectations with Dallas, with their lack of playmakers, which one of these guys is going to evolve. Imagine we had the same storyline, same question we have right now. Well, Dak's going to run more. Would we have been excited about that before the season? No. This is the way this offense is evolving because of Dak's inability to be able to throw the football. Now, Stink makes a great point. 65 to 70 NFL plays, all right? So I know I got 35 runs in there, baked in there no matter what.
Right.
It's them other 5 to 10 plays. What do I do with those? Because if you give those to Dak, he goes from throwing it 25 times to 35 times. So I understand what Stink is trying, because as a game plan, we're trying to get through them 65 to 70 plays and give yourself the best chance of winning, which that would. But once you get to the playoffs, when you have to be more explosive, your margin of error becomes real small.
All right, let's take a break. Mark, stick around. Much more on this and other things.
Yeah, I left them duck mouth, all of them.
We all were. We were like, Le'Veon Bell turned some heads with his latest decision. Wait till you hear. It's next on First Things First.
No, I wasn't. But
Stink's one of my